So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. So, my name is Basile Henry, and I'm an Erasmus student from Belgium. And I was maybe getting a little bored of the flatlands of Netherlands, so I went to Bolivia, find some mountains, and I did research 4,000 meters high. My thesis is about integrated watershed management and how to trigger adoption at microcatchment level under the National Watershed Plan in Bolivia. So, Bolivia has recently written a new constitution that stipulates that water is a common and universal right for everyone. The Ministry of Environment and Water has created the National Watershed Plan, PNC, Plan Nacional de Cuenca in Spanish. This plan is composed of two main concepts: integrated water resources management and integrated watershed management. It's important to understand the distinction between the two. The first one is more technical and talking about the use of resources, and the second one is more institutional and how institutions will manage the resources and share this management. So, this National Watershed Plan is applied at national level, then macro-catchment level, and micro-catchment level, which is the scale on which I study. At micro-catchment level, the same two concepts are applied, with the institutional side represented by local watershed management committees. They are called OGC, for Organismo de Gestión de Cuenca, and they are socially constructed management committees. And then there is a technical support from local institutions that help implementing this integrated watershed management. Together, they form the pedagogical watershed program on which I investigate. Now, the two study areas, I've been studying in Wageningen and Torapuru. There are two microcatchments. Wageningen is located in Oruro Department and Wageningen Highlands. And Torapuru is a bit lower altitude, near Cochabamba. Wageningen, as I said, is in the highlands. Therefore, the weather is very dry, semi-arid weather. And the main land degradation issues are desertification and water scarcity. The boundaries of the watershed are defined hydro-socially. It's a bit complicated, but it means that the local people have decided of the boundaries of the watershed, which are not physical. So this is a bit complicated, but my previous student who studied there has pointed out this fact, Natalia Vasquez. There are 16 communities living in the watershed, and its area is 300 kilometers square. And the OGC, so the Local Watershed Management Committee, remember this acronym because I'm going to use it again and again, has strong social cohesion. In Torapuru, the weather is more semi-humid with higher precipitation level. Therefore, land degradation issues are different, mainly water erosion and floods. Here it is proper physical watershed with clear boundaries. There are only two communities, and it is 20 times more, 16 kilometers square only. And there is a strong local management committee, OGC, which has strong external recognition. So, the problem statement of my research is that the PNC is taking cyclic and bottom-up approach for their projects, but their projects are only focusing on 2-3 years fundings. So it is a bit difficult to get continuous and sustainable management. And this is my main research objectives, which I separated in 4 fields, following methodology from the Swiss cooperation: environmental, social, political, and economic. So for the 4 fields, there are sustainability conditions, or the sustainable use of natural resources, for the environmental field, the equitable empowerment of farmers and local population, the perception and valuation of economic benefits from this integrated watershed management, and finally the political aspect with the integrated and coordinated management. So I collected data on the field, assessing soil and water conservation measures, and using questionnaires to interview farmers and executives of the project. Then, with all this data, I've defined sustainability indicators and made ratings from 0 to 4. So I will present the results as follows. I'll start with specific results, then continue with the comparison, discuss a bit the results, and then conclude. First of all, Wageningen. In Wageningen, there is an increased frequency of droughts, with the El Niño phenomenon being increasingly coming, especially this year also. And therefore, water harvesting measures have had great success recently, with the atajados, which are smaller dams that enable to have more water during the year. I've geolocated these atajados, and as you can see, there are many of them, and also we can see that almost half of them, the red dots, are almost dry or completely dry, which reflects the very dry year, 2016. This is a picture of an atarado. On the other hand, there is increasing concern about water, but there is little perception of erosion risk so far, which can be problematic, as we will see later. In Tolapuru, we have different processes and intense water erosion because slopes are very steep. In this area, the successful measures implemented are fodder grass strips, which are used to form slow forming terraces, as you can see here, and sprinkling irrigation. And those two measures benefit to the farmers because they reduce soil erosion. They block water, and the terraces block the water and sediments, and sprinkling irrigation allows for reduced water use. On the other hand, and that is the main difference with Wageningen, there is no water harvesting so far. Of course, they have higher precipitation levels, but droughts are also increasing in the region, so it could be problematic in the future. So, to compare our results, I will now use the 4 fields. On the environmental field, so I have defined around 10 indicators per field, and I don't have time to go into details, but we can see the comparison between in red Tolapuru and in blue Wageningen. For Tolapuru, as I already said, they have better water use and soil conservation concern. And Wageningen, they are better adapted to climate change because they are harvesting more and more water that can also be used for livestock. On the social sides, we can notice that in Tolapuru, the part of women's participation is much higher due to the existence of a local women's organization group. So during meetings and during all decisions, women are very important, and there is often a 50-50 ratio. On the other hand, Wageningen doesn't give much importance to gender equality, but they have stronger dynamic leadership, thanks to a greater social cohesion at local and watershed level. And this is due to past historical links between the communities. On the political side, we can see that Wageningen scores better in consultation, again because they are socially stronger and they will discuss. I've seen at the meetings they are much more involved in discussion, and many people from the watershed come to the meeting. In Tolapuru, the motivation of farmers is a bit lower. But in Tolapuru, the external support is stronger, so they have better integration, planification, and rural definitions. Last but not least, the economic aspects. So thanks to this increased external support, Tolapuru has better incentives mechanism, as well as better assistance to low-income families. On the other hand, Wageningen has started financing itself thanks to democratic participation. So each farmer comes with some money at the meetings to invest for the watershed. I will drink a bit of water and then come to the conclusion. It's a lot of information. So, all the 40 indicators, around 10 per field, have been merged into 12 in order to have a synthetic picture. And here we can clearly see what is the main difference between Torapuru and Wageningen is that Torapuru is more constant on all levels, while Wageningen has strongest and weakest points. Now to discuss a bit, the 12 indicators I just used would be 12 key conditions to sustainability. Inside this framework, there are two main actors that would be most important to reach the sustainability. They are the OGC, the Local Watershed Management Committee, and the municipality. The municipality is the lowest governmental level that has budgets and funding that could help reaching this sustainable integrated watershed management. So there is a scale bias in the results due to the different size of the watersheds. Of course, one is 20 times bigger than the other. And Wageningen isn't technically a microcatchment. 350 kilometers square is a lot. So it's important to consider this aspect because it would be useful to establish a sustainability grade that would be used on any catchments, but when there are sizes difference, maybe this could be taken into consideration in calculating ratios. And of course, even if you can compare any watershed, it's always important to take into consideration that each watershed is very specific, so you need to go on the field to see what's happening. Just looking at graphs is not sufficient. To conclude my presentation, I have a few recommendations per field sustainability. On the environmental aspects, it is very important to implement soil and water conservation measures with fast and visible outputs to farmers. This was seen for the Atajado case and for the sprinkling irrigation, because in both cases they can see directly the impact of it. And also important to increase the support to porous farmers. That would allow for a slow but steady adoption process. On the social side, it is useful to support actively the leaders from the OGC, because the OGC being the main management unity, its leaders need to be very well informed about how to manage the watershed and what is the watershed and what needs to be done. Also, the understanding of what is integrated watershed management should be common for all people living inside the watershed. So it's important to agree to consensus of what is integrated watershed management, increase the perception. On the political aspect, vertical integration and coordination of authorities is very important with clear role definitions. And also the municipality as second key actor needs to be empowered with dynamic budget allocation. What often happens is that the municipality doesn't have enough funds and needs to ask to the higher level, departmental or national, and they don't get the money fast enough, and because of that, many projects are not being conducted properly. And finally, on the economic aspect, continuous and flexible financial support should be brought to farmers, because there is often a delay between the project's formulation and project implementation, and sometimes the needs of farmers can change into 3 years, and then it is not adapted anymore to what is happening on the field. And finally, of course, very important to enhance sensitization about profitability of water conservation measures, so the return on